Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon. This is a participatory event. We want you involved. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your patience. The sound guys tried to escape me, but Stephanie helped track them down. My throat is very appreciative. Does anybody not have a program? The lady in the hat in the corner. Lillian, a couple of hands here with programs, please. Yeah. I'm the chair of the Pinsky Favorite Poem Project for the Friends of the Chautauqua Writing Center. Oh, two over here. I thought you were just being friendly. And it's wonderful to have you with us today. This is our 18th consecutive annual Pinsky Favorite Poem Project. Try to have a glass of wine and say that fast. Even the pandemic couldn't interrupt our programming. We did 2 years on Zoom. I was fortunate to be able to conduct that from Australia, so it's pretty clever. And now in this world of division and partisanship, maybe poetry holds an even more important place and special place in our lives. Our recent poet laureate, do you have it all, Lillian? There we can share. Sorry. Our recent poet laureate, Ada Limon, said poetry has the possibility to show its rage, to connect without fear, to celebrate joy, to make room for a whole spectrum of human emotions. She said, great poetry is the place where we come to get strength, to heal, to become whole again, and to recommit to the world. As poet laureate in 1997, Robert Pinsky founded the Favorite Poem Project, through which thousands of Americans with varying backgrounds, ages, and from every state now share their favorite poems. Contrary to the perception that poetry was only for academia, for the elite, Robert Pinsky believed that it should be here amongst all of us and have a strong presence in American culture. His project sought to provide an outlet for that. Georgia Cordes, a longtime supporter of the Writers Center, brought Pinsky Favorite Poem Project to Chautauqua with Robert Pinsky in 2009. And we thank her for that. Hear more from her later. And we thank you again for joining us. Our format today is that our readers will be called up in the order of the program, and they will tell us the poem they're going to read and how they feel that poem speaks to them. They will then share the poem with us. Our newly appointed Michael I. Riddell, Director of Literary Arts, our longtime friend and supporter of all things literary, Stephanie Hunt, has a few words she'd like to. Thank you, and again, congratulations, Stephanie.
Hi, friends. I just wanted to pop up here to say thank you to all for sharing in a love of poetry in this world and sharing in something that brings us all together. One of the things that I love most about literature and about writing and about sharing literature with one another is that I think it brings us back to the central component of why writers write and why readers read. And it's for that experience, that building of relationship, not only with the text, but with one another, the thing that makes us truly human. Finding something in a book that speaks to an experience or emotion or part of your own story that you didn't have words for, or that you didn't believe someone in the world could possibly understand, and learn, oh, there is someone else out there who knows, right? And often that means as readers, there are so many others who also understand, who share in those emotions and those experiences and that love of life and that cherish the pieces that literature and writing can offer us. The Robert Pinsky Favorite Poem Project is a celebration of all of those things. And you being here today to celebrate a love of poetry in this space together is a testament to the power that this still holds well beyond when this project began, and of course began at Chautauqua in 2009. So I'll say a little bit more about how I came to this when I read my poem in a minute or two, but I believe it was my task to pass on to Laura Maris, who has a long history with the Robert Pinsky Poem Project. So please welcome Laura Maris.
Hello, and thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Norma, for putting this together and inviting me to say a few words. So after I finished my MFA from Boston University, I directed the Favorite Poem Project for 2 years. It's a great privilege to be able to work with Robert on this project that he started as poet laureate, and to see the community that he had built around people sharing favorite poems over the course of their lives. And it's important to note that when he created this project, it was very much in the spirit of thinking about people. Yep, it's just a little tippy out here. The box is not my friend. So as you will all see out here, you can come up to read your poems. But he really believed in the spirit of sharing poems as thinking about human beings as art-making animals. So we're all art-making animals, whether your medium is painting or poetry or, making a golden record to send into outer space. But he always thought of poetry's medium as breath, and breath is something shared between people. And he really believed that everyone had a right to really engage with language in all of its musical and artistic qualities, not just for its day-to-day use, telling your spouse to take out the garbage. So he really wanted to give people access to the musicality of language and to the shared breath of emotion that comes through when people read poems. So I'm really looking forward to hearing you all read your poems today. And though Robert Pinsky retired from BU last year, the Favorite Poem Project continues and has a home there. And so I encourage all of you, if you're interested, to go and check out some of the video portraits of people from all walks of life that are online at the Favorite Poem Project on the organization's website. So thanks so much. I'm looking forward to hearing you read.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Stephanie. Our first reader this morning is Stephanie Hunt. When she's not studying, teaching, supporting our literary arts programs, Stephanie enjoys gardening and exploring local parks and woodland areas with her fiance and her rescue dog.
All right, so I'm here to read the poem Dead Stars by Ada Limon. I believe the first time I took part in the Robert Pinsky Favorite Poem Project here at Chautauqua was 2019, so 10 years after its founding here. And I was still just the Octagon manager, as if that's a just, because that's a task in and of itself. But I was still only the Octagon manager and seasonal at that time. And when Norma asked me if I would read this year, I had a couple of ideas, and I mentioned Dead Stars again, and she said, oh, I really loved when you read that one. So this is what we're going with, Dead Stars by Ada Limon, and I just think it's a really beautiful, great poem that speaks to that relationship building and that human connection, but other than human connection as well with the environment and beyond. Dead Stars by Ada Limon. Out here, there's a bowing that even the trees are doing. Winter's icy hand at the back of all of us. Black bark, slick yellow leaves, a kind of stillness that feels so mute it's almost in another year. I am a hearth of spiders these days, a nest of trying. We point out the stars that make Orion as we take out the trash, the rolling containers, a song of suburban thunder. It's almost romantic as we adjust the waxy blue recycling bin till you say, man, we should really learn some new constellations. And it's true. We keep forgetting about Antilla, Centaurus, Draco, Lacerta, Hydra, Lyra, Lynx, but mostly we're forgetting we're dead stars too. My mouth is full of dust and I wish to reclaim the rising, to lean into the spotlight of streetlight with you, toward what's larger within us, toward how we were born. Look, we are not unspectacular things. We've come this far, survived this much. What would happen if we decided to survive more, to love harder? What if we stood up with our synapses and flesh and said no, no to the rising tide, stood for the many mute mouths of the sea and the land? What would happen if we used our bodies to bargain for the safety of others, for Earth? If we declared a clean night? If we stopped being terrified? If we launched our demands into the sky, made ourselves so big people could point to us with the arrows that they make in their minds, rolling their trash bins out, all after all of this is over. Thank you. Next reader is Laura Morris.
That was a beautiful reading to me. So I'm going to read Robert Frost's poem To Earthward, and I chose this one because it's one of the poems that I discovered kind of early on when I was a child, just learning to think about poetry, but really falling in love with the music of language. And there's something about this poem that just comes back to me almost in random moments when I'm walking through the world. There's something about the music of these lines that just floats through my head all the time, and it's become a kind of companionship. And it was one of the things that made me feel like I had chosen the right path during my MFA, when Robert Pinsky actually used to recite this to us every single workshop class, and he had it by heart. So this is Robert Frost's To Earthward. Love at the lips was touch as sweet as I could bear, and once that seemed too much, I lived on air that crossed me from sweet things, the flow of, was it musk, from hidden grapevine springs downhill at dusk. I had the swirl and ache from sprays of honeysuckle that when they're gathered shake dew on the knuckle. I craved strong sweets, but those seemed strong when I was young. The petal of the rose it was that stung. Now no joy but lacks salt, that is not dashed with pain and weariness and fault. I crave the stain of tears, the aftermark of almost too much love, the sweet of bitter bark and burning clove. When stiff and sore and scarred, I take away my hand from leaning on it hard in grass and sand. The hurt is not enough. I long for weight and strength, to feel the earth is rough to all my length. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Our next reader is Nishant Batshaw, who is with the faculty this week as the prose instructor on his first visit to Chautauqua, as it was for Laura.
Thank you. I'll be reading Song by Seamus Heaney. I first came across this poem while I was in graduate school at the University of Oxford and reading through a lot of Seamus Heaney's poems. And to my surprise, I memorized it almost instantly. And now, nearly, gosh, I think it's been 16 years later, it's still in my head. I think of it as a prose writer because it paints scene so well and in so few words. It's one of the great powers of poetry, how it's able to paint a scene of the world in so few words. A rowan like a lipstick girl, between the by road and the main road, alder trees at a wet and dripping distance stand off among the rushes. There are the mud flowers of dialect and the immortelles of perfect pitch, in that moment when the bird sings very close to the music of what happens. Thank you.
As literary writing and poetry teacher, Catherine D'Agostino taught middle school and high school students at Chautauqua County for nearly 32 years. Now she enjoys writing mystery novels set in New York State and being an enthusiastic member of the Friends of the Chautauqua Writers Center.
Today, I'll be reading Traveling Through the Dark by William Stafford. I've always liked the poet's decision to place the narrator in a tense setting, making the moral dilemmas that much worse, and all in 18 lines. Traveling through the dark. Traveling through the dark, I found a deer dead on the edge of the Wilson River Road. It is usually best to roll them into the canyon. That road is narrow, to swerve might make more dead. By glow of the taillight, I stumbled back of the car and stood by the heap, a doe, a recent killing. She had stiffened already, almost cold. I dragged her off. She was large in the belly. My fingers touching her side brought me the reason. Her side was warm. Her fawn lay there waiting, alive, still, never to be born. Beside that mountain road, I hesitated. The car aimed ahead its lowered parking lights. Under the hood purred the steady engine. I stood in the glare of the warm exhaust, turning red. Around our group, I could hear the wilderness listen. I thought hard for us all, my only swerving, then pushed her over the edge into the river.
Maureen's passion for poetry began when her mother read poetry to her at a very young age. She wrote her first poem at age 9 and has been writing ever since. Maureen has been teaching special studies writing classes here at Chautauqua since 2010.
I encountered this poem in an email from a friend I hadn't heard from for a long time. And she'd come across it and thought of me and sent this message. I know you'll love this. And I do love this poem. Her timing was really grace imbued, it turned out. My husband was in hospice care at the time and he passed away just over a week later. And the poem gave me comfort. It was a ballast and still is. And it gave me permission to still live wholeheartedly. This is for when people ask, Rosemary would tell the drummer, I want a word that means okay and not okay. A word that means devastated and stunned with joy. I want the word that says, I feel it all at once. The heart is not like a songbird singing only one note at a time, more like a Tuvan throat singer, able to sing both a drone and simultaneously 2 or 3 harmonics high above it. A sound, the Tuvans say, that gives the impression of wind swirling among rocks. The heart understands the swirl, how the churning of opposite feelings weaves through us like an insistent breeze, leads us wordlessly deeper into ourselves, blesses us with paradox, so we might walk more openly into this world so rife with devastation, this world so ripe with joy.
Nick Smith is a brand new member of the Friends of Chautauqua Writers Center. He himself is a writer He tells me his accent often causes waitresses to bring him a beer instead of water. I do hope I don't have to translate his poem for you.
Hello, everybody. Well, some poems stick in our heads and we remember them. I don't have the facility to memorize poems, but I do memorize gestures and the things people say. I memorize barbs and people are sticking the knife in, and I memorize compliments as well. So this poem reminds me of a person. La belle dame sans merci. But what can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. But what can ail thee, knight at arms, so haggard and so woebegone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest's done. I see a lily on thy brow, with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose fast withereth too. I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing she saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy's song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses, for. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed, woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamt, on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La belle dame sans merci, thee hath in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the glow, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hillside. And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake and no birds sing. Thank you.
Thanks. That was quite a kiss. Jenna Alcott. Jenna is a recent graduate from the University of Connecticut. This season, she's the environmental and climate reporter for the Chautauquan Daily. She loves all things nature and animals.
Hello. I'm going to be reading Kind of a Man by Althea Davis. And this is a poem that I came across when I was doing a reporting project about roadkill and wildlife crossings. And it's a reminder that there's a lot of animals that are easy to have compassion for, and there's a lot of animals that are easy to turn a blind eye to. And those are the animals that sometimes need our compassion. Kinder than man, Althea Davis. And God, please let the deer on the highway get some kind of heaven, something with tall, soft grass and sweet reunion. Let the moths in the porch lights go someplace with 1,000 suns that taste like sugar and get swallowed whole. May the mice in oil and glue have forever dry, warm fur and full bellies. If I am killed for simply living, let death be kinder than man.
Thank you, Emma. Guinevere is a photographer, videographer, artist, writer, and lover of poetry from Chicago. She recently graduated from the George Washington University and is currently serving as a multimedia journalist at the Chautauquan Daily.
Good afternoon. Today I will be reading Good Bones by Maggie Smith. She wrote this as a mother. I myself am not a mother, but I am a daughter and a sister and a friend. And this poem speaks to how I feel about the mysterious and the magical world that we all inhabit. Good Bones by Maggie Smith. Life is short, though I keep this from my children. Life is short, and I've shortened mine in 1,000 delicious, ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep from my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate, though I keep this from my children. For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child broken, backed, sunk in a lake. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible, and for every kind stranger there is one who would break you, though I keep this from my children. I am trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor walking you through a real shithole chirps on about Good Bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you, Guinevere. Robert Lewis is a retired lawyer, an exhibited artist, and now a teacher of English as a second language. She taught while working on her master's in that field. She's also a marvelous friend to the Chautauqua Writing Center and often works quietly behind the scenes, making sure that things go smoothly. Trying to box. Thank you. So I picked a poem, Mending Wall by Robert Frost. It's an old favorite of mine, but also it seemed to me appropriate in a summer where we've been talking a lot about different kinds of walls. So here it is. This is a challenge between being able to read it. All right. Mending Wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the first groundswell, swell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even too contested. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair when they have left not one stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean. No one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor go beyond the hill, and on a day we meet the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go to each, the boulders that have fallen to each, and some are lobes, and some so nearly balls. We have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough at handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game, one on a side. It comes to little more. There where it is, we do not need the wall. He is all pine and I am an apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall.
that wants it down. I could say else to him, but it's not else exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only and the shade of trees. He will not go behind, his father saying, and he likes having thought of it so well, he says again. Good fences make good neighbors. Thank you, Robin. Bill Bates lives in Pittsburgh and has been coming to Chautauqua since 1974. Bill loves the written word, often committing long poems and poetic passages to memory. He also participates in provocative short story discussions, especially on Saturday morning during the season. Thank you, Bill.
Kipling, born in 1865, died in 1936, Englishman. He came to Chautauqua in July of 1889. And not his favorite. He said, I don't like Chautauqua. There's something wrong with it. I haven't the time to find out, but it is wrong. I guess he didn't give the annual fund. Anyway, this poem was written 2 years before the birth of his son and published 3 years after. To treat us on how to live, the themes are stoicism, maturity, balance, judging all people equally, working through adversity and soldiering on. Two of the lines are inscribed above the tunnel, leading to the runway, going out to the championship final at Wimbledon, and see if you can figure out what 2 lines they are. So, if by Rudyard Kipling, if you can keep your head all about you are losing theirs, blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, and make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait, not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hate, and not look too good, talk too wise. If you can bear to see the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or see the things you gave your life to broken, and stupid, build them up with worn out. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think, not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those 2 impostors just the same, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn, pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never be the word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all mankind with you, but not too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And what is more, you'll be a man, my son.
You will. There'll be a prize at the end of the day if you can guess which 2 lines are carved into the bridge going to Wimbledon. Stephen Starr is our next reader. First came to the grounds in 1999 as the equity guest artist for the Chautauqua Theatre Company. He and his wife Kendall have been coming back ever since with their children, and they're now year-round residents. Stephen was a professional actor and director for 30 years and spent his final 19 years working as a high school theater teacher. I think they were pretty lucky students. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. I grew up in Chicago. Yeah, bring it. I love Chicago, and I always have. This is a poem called Chicago by Carl Sandburg. Excuse me, written in 1914. Hog butcher for the world, tool maker, stacker of wheat, player with railroads, and the nation's freight handler, stormy, husky, brawling, city of big shoulders. They tell me you're wicked, and I believe them, for I've seen your painted women under the gas lamps, luring the farm boys. And they tell me you are crooked, and I answer, yes, it is true. I have seen the gunmen kill and go for free and kill again. And they tell me you are brutal, and my reply is, on the faces of women and children, I have seen the marks of wanton hunger. And having answered so, I turn once more to those who sneer at this my city, and I give them back the sneer and say to them, come and show me another city with lifted heads, singing so proud to be alive and coarse and strong and cunning, flinging magnetic curses amid the toil of piling job on job. Here is a tall, bold slugger set vivid against the little soft cities. Fierce as a dog, with tongue lapping for action, cunning as a savage pitted against the wilderness, bareheaded, shoveling, wrecking, planning, building, breaking, rebuilding. Under the smoke, dust all over his mouth, laughing with white teeth under the terrible burden of destiny, laughing as a young man laughs, laughing even as an ignorant fighter laughs who has never lost a battle, bragging and laughing that under his wrist is the pulse, and under his ribs the heart of the people. Laughing, laughing the stormy, husky, brawling laughter of youth, half naked, sweating, proud to be a hog butcher, tool maker, stacker of wheat, player with the railroads, and freight handler to the nation.
Thank you, Stephen, and now we all love Chicago. Georgia Porter, as I said previously, is a longtime supporter of all things literary at Chautauqua. She founded the annual Poetry Life Festival in Sarasota, Florida, where she lives during the winter and currently owns an independent bookstore. There she has hosted many terrific poets, including Robert Pinsky. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Norma. Get this waiting a little bit. Thank you for coming. I'm going to read a poem by a poet I truly love. I have loved Amy Nesuku for years. I've known her over 20 years. I first met her here. And the poem I'm going to read was actually written in 2003 when she was living in this area and teaching at SUNY Fredonia. So she's here on the ground. She's going to be speaking here, the spot, 2:00 tomorrow, because she's the CLSC author of the week. So I'd suggest you come and hear her read. But I love her poetry so much, and this is Food Week, so I had to pick a poem to honor both. And this is called The Woman Who Turned Down a Date with a Cherry Farmer. Of course I regret it. I mean, there I was under umbrellas of fruit so red, they had to be born of summer and no other season. Flip-flops and fishhooks, ice cubes made of lemonade and sprigs of mint to slip in blue glasses of tea. I was dusty, my ponytail all askew, and the tips of my fingers ran, of course, red from the fruit wounds of cherries I plunked into my bucket, and still. He must have seen some small bit of loveliness in walking his orchard with me. He pointed out which trees were sweetest, which ones bore double seeds, puffing out the flesh, and oh, the surprise on your tongue with 2 tiny stones and twin spit making a small gun of your mouth. Did I mention my favorite color is red? His jeans were worn and twisty around the tops of his boot. His hands thick but careful, nimble enough to pull fruit from his trees without tearing the thin skin. The cherry dust and fingerprints on his eyeglasses. I just know when he stuffed his hands into his pockets, said, "Okay, couldn't hurt to try," and shuffled back to his roadside stand to arrange his jelly jars and stacks of buckets, I had made a terrible mistake. I just know my summer would have been full of pies, tartlets, turnips, so much jubilee. Severe regret. Lee Hines is a theater maker. I had to ask what that meant. Actor, singer, dancer, teacher, based in New York City. She graduated from the children's school and girls club with high honors. I didn't know that was possible. Where many lanyards and pot holders were made and given to her mother.
So I'm reading The Lanyard by Billy Collins. So when I heard Billy Collins read this here in Chautauqua, I thought, I have to learn that poem, which I have not done yet. And that was a while ago, but I wanted to share it with you. For anyone who has ever gone to a camp, I think you'll know what I mean. The Lanyard by Billy Collins. The other day, I was ricocheting slowly off the blue walls of this room, moving as if underwater, from typewriter to piano, from bookshelf to an envelope lying on the floor, when I found myself in the L section of the dictionary, where my eyes fell upon the word lanyard. No cookie nibbled by a French novelist could send one into the past more suddenly. A past where I sat at a workbench at a camp by a deep Adirondack lake, learning how to braid long, thin plastic strips into a lanyard, a gift for my mother. I had never seen anyone use a lanyard or wear one, if that's what people did with them. But that did not keep me from crossing strand over strand again and again, until I had made a boxy red and white lanyard for my mother. She gave me life and milk from her breasts, and I gave her a lanyard. She nursed me in many a sick room, lifted spoons of medicine to my lips, laid cold face cloths on my forehead, and then led me out into the airy light and taught me to walk and swim. And I, in turn, presented her with a lanyard. Here are thousands of meals, she said, and here is clothing and a good education. And here is your lanyard, I replied, which I made with a little help from a counselor.
Here is a breathing body and a beating heart, strong legs, bones, and teeth, and two clear eyes to read the world, she whispered. And here I said, is the lanyard I made it cap. And here, I wish to say to her now, is a smaller gift, not the worn truth that you can never repay your mother, but the rueful admission that when she took the two-tone lanyard from my hand, I was as sure as a boy could be that this useless, worthless thing I wove out of boredom would be enough to make us even.
Thank you, Lee. Michael Chuller in real life is a professor of England and works of English and a student of all things baseball. At Chautauqua, Marcus helped organize the Chautauqua Softball League and facilitate short story discussion, both in a week-long course during the season and on Sunday mornings each week.
So the world I inhabited at a very young age was the world of baseball. Certainly the world that introduced me to issues of history and to issues of race in America. I'm about to share a very small poem about a very big subject, that's Satchel Paige. What I would say about Satchel Paige is he was a man of defiance. Born in Alabama, Jim Crow South, I'd say he defied the racism of America. Did something revolutionary in his day. He demanded to be treated like a human being, which was kind of revolutionary. That was not allowed of black men in his day. He was also defiant. He defied time. He defied aging. His pitching career, some would argue this is the greatest pitcher who ever lived, lasted over 30 years, mostly in the Negro leagues. But he ended his career in the major leagues when he was in his 40s into his 50s. Here's how his career ended. He'd sit in the bullpen in an old man rocking chair. He'd walk to the mound like an old man. Then he blew away batters with a fastball that defied his age. So, this is a little poem by Samuel Allen called To Satch. Sometimes I feel like I will never stop, just go on forever. Till one fine morning, I'm going to reach up and grab me a handful of stars, swing out my long leg, and with 3 hot stripes, burn down the heavens, and look over at God and say, how about that?
Thank you, Bob. Cindy Hinsdale is a longtime supporter of the Chautauqua area. I first met her a long time ago when she worked in Alumni Hall for 10 years. Now she's a year-round employee at the Athenaeum Hotel. She's excited to participate in this event. And poetry is best heard, not read, but out aloud, she says.
So I, as a kid, really loved libraries. And every time I went to the library, I probably came home with a Shel Silverstein book. So it was Shel Silverstein who taught me to love books and libraries and poetry. And this poem continues to speak to me now, probably even more as an adult than it ever did as a kid. Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be.
What a good message. Apologies, Stuart Lush is Professor of English, and seems to be missing. And my bad, I didn't print out his wonderful little poem about Queen Victoria's statue. So our next reader will be Judith Holder, who also is a longtime Chautauquan, and she says she has the grateful eye of an artist. Thank you.
Okay, what a summer. 2 things on my bucket list. Speaking here, graduating CLSC. Woohoo! Okay, seriously, Robert Pinsky, favorite poem? Favorite poem? It's like asking me for my favorite chocolate, my favorite pair of shoes. Good luck with that. So for me, it's whatever I put on the Great American Archive Weekly, that which gets the fridge name. So this week, it's a poem by a Chautauquan. If you know her, come talk to me. I'd love to meet her. It's by Lenny Hay. It was written June 23rd, 2025, and it's called Chautauqua's Secrets. Amish girls in pastel dresses, like pale pink and blue hibiscus, wear white bonnets and flip-flops. Hairy brushes in buckets. I walk behind them in silence near turrets and wrap-around porches, listening for whispers of last century lectures, melodies from past concerts, hidden under the hostas and zinnias. I'm not sure why they hold my attention. The freshness, an air of private camaraderie, such modesty amid our shorts, sundresses. I wonder about their leaving cornfields and chickens with no chaperones for day work in Eden. They don't attend lectures or concerts in the village of abundance. They may feel like black-eyed Susans stretched toward an unfamiliar sun. We exchange nods. Before I can ask a question, one girl makes a covert move, drops a cigarette, brushes it in round.
Thank you, Judith. Fred Zurm has been coming to Chautauqua since 1998 and joined the board of what is now the Friends of the Chautauqua Writers Center in 2009. Fred is a teacher, an award-winning director of community plays, and a published poet. He's been a longtime friend of the Chautauqua Writers Center and for me, a wonderful support of my pet projects. Thanks.
I'll be reading Forgetfulness by Billy Collins. I can't remember why I chose it. Forgetfulness. The name of the author is the first to go, followed obediently by the title, the plot, the heartbreaking conclusion, the entire novel, which suddenly becomes one you have never read, never even heard of, as if one by one, the memories you used to harbor decided to retire to the southern hemisphere of the brain, to a little fishing village where there are no phones. Long ago, you kissed the names of the 9 muses goodbye and watched the quadratic equation pack its bag. And even now, as you memorize the order of the planets, something else is slipping away. A state flower, perhaps, the address of an uncle, the capital of Paraguay. Whatever it is you are struggling to remember, it is not poised on the tip of your tongue, not even lurking in some obscure corner of your spleen. It has floated away down a dark mythological river whose name begins with L, as far as you can recall. Well on your way to oblivion, where you will join those who have forgotten even how to swim and how to ride a bicycle. No wonder you rise in the middle of the night to look up the date of a famous battle in a book on war. No wonder the moon in the window seems to have drifted out of a love poem that you used to know by heart.
What would we do without Billy Collins? Wally Reese is the Sun Devil, having graduated from Arizona State University, where he graduated as an English major. He then went off to other things, including being a pilot in the US Navy. But in his retirement, he discovered Chautauqua and has been a seasonal attendee since 2008. Wally has participated in many literary art workshops, short story discussion groups, and writing projects, and he currently lives with me on the Gold Coast in Australia.
There you go. Andrew Patterson. Poem. What is it? The Man from Snowy River. And it's the most iconic of all Australian poetry and somewhat responsible for a mythic persona of Aussies even today. It was written in 1890. So important to Australian culture that Banjo Patterson is actually on the $10 bill in Australia. It's which Australians refer to as a banknote, by the way. So this note has his picture and also all of the lyrics of this poem in mini print, which you could actually read on a $10 note with a magnifying glass, which I didn't know that until I started reading about this a poem again. But anyway, just as a head start on the poem, as the story goes, this very valuable racing horse has escaped and joined the wild horses, group of wild horses, wild brumbies, they call them. And the stockmen had gathered to share in a possible reward. One word in here is Kosciuszko. It's the tallest mountain in Australia and is on the New South Wales Victoria border and near the Snowy River. So here's the Man from Snowy River by Banjo Patterson. There was movement at the station, for the word had passed around that the colt from Old Regret had got away and had joined the wild bush horses. He was worth £1,000. So all the cracks had gathered to the fray, all the tried and noted riders from the stations near and far had mustered at the homestead overnight. For the bushmen love hard riding where the wild horses are, and the stock horse snuffs the battle with delight. There was Harrison, who made his pile when Pardon won the cup, the old man with his hair as white as snow. But few could ride beside him when his blood was fairly up. He would go wherever horse and man could go. And Clancy of the Overflow came down to lend a hand. No better horseman ever held the reins, for never horse could throw him while the saddle girths would stand. He learned to ride while droving on the plains. And one was there, a stripling, on a small and weedy beast. He was something like a racehorse, undersized.
with a touch of Timor pony, 3 parts thoroughbred at least, and such as are by mountain horsemen prized. He was hard and tough and wiry, just the sort that won't say die. There was courage in his quick, impatient tread, and he wore the badge of gameness in his bright and fiery eye, and the proud and lofty carriage of his head. But so slight and weedy, one would doubt his power to stay, and the old man said, "That horse will never do. For a long and tiring gallop, lad, you better step away. Those hills are far too rough, as for such as you." So he waited, sad and wistful. Only Clancy stood his friend. "I think we ought to let him come," he said. "I warrant he'll be with us when he's wanted at the end. For both his horse and he are mountain bred. He hails from Snowy River up by Kosciuszko's side, where the hills are twice as steep and twice as rough, where a horse's hoofs strike firelight from the flintstones every stride. The man that holds his own is good enough. And the Snowy River riders on the mountains make their home, where the river runs those giant hills between. I have seen many horsemen since I first commenced to roam, but nowhere yet such horsemen have I seen." So he went. They found the horses by the big mimosa clump. They raced away toward the mountain's brow, and the old man gave his orders, "Boys, go at them from the jump. No use to try for fancy riding now. And Clancy, you must wheel them. Try and wheel them to the right. Ride boldly, lad, and never fill the spill. Fear the spills, for never yet was rider that could keep the mob in sight, if once they gain the shelter of those hills." So Clancy rode to wheel them. He was racing on the wing, where the best and boldest riders take their place, and he raced his stock horse past them, and he made the ranges ring with stock whip as he met them face to face. Then they halted for a moment while he swung the dreaded lash, but they saw their well-loved mount full in view, and they charged beneath the stock whip with a sharp and sudden dash, and off into the mountain scrub they flew. Then fast the horsemen followed, where the gorges deep and black resounded to the thunder of their tread, and the stock whips woke the echoes, and they fiercely answered back from cliffs and crags that beetled overhead, and upward, ever upward, the wild horses held their sway, where Mountain Ash and Courageon wild, and the old man muttered fiercely, "We may bid them on good day. No man can hold them down the other side." When they reached the mountain summit, even Clancy took a pull. It might make the boldest hold their breath. The wild hot scrub grew thickly, and the hidden ground was full of wombat holes, and any slip was death. But the man from Snowy River let the pony have his head, and he swung his stock quick round and gave a cheer, and he raced him down the mountain like a torrent down its bed, while the others stood and watched in very fear. He sent the flintstones flying, but the pony kept his feet. He cleared the fallen timbers in his stride, and the men from Snowy River never shifted in his seat. It was grand to see that mountain horseman ride. Through the stringy barks and saplings on the rough and broken ground, down the hillside at a racing pace he went. He never drew the bridle till he landed safe and sound at the bottom of that terrible descent. He was right among the horses as they climbed the further hill, and the watchers on the mountain, standing mute, saw him ply the stock whip fiercely. He was right among them still as he raced across the clearing in pursuit. Then they lost him for a moment, where the two mountain gullies met in the ranges, but a final glimpse reveals on a dim and distant hillside the wild horses racing yet, with a man from Snowy River right at their heels. And he ran them single-handed till their sides were white with foam. He followed like a bloodhound on their track till they halted, cowed and beaten. Then he turned their heads for home, and alone and unassisted brought them back
But his hardy mountain pony, he could scarcely raise the trot. He was bled from hip to shoulder from the spur, but his pluck was still undaunted, and his courage fiery hot. For never yet was mountain horse a cur. And down by Kosciuszko, where the pine-clad ridges rise, their torn and rugged valleys on high, where the air is clear as crystal, and the white stars fairly blaze at midnight in the cold and frosty sky, and where around the overflow the reed beds sweep and sway to the breezes, and the rolling plains are wide, the man from Snowy River is a household word today, and the stockmen tell the story of his ride.
He's trying to make me homesick.
Well, the sad news is, that's all we have for you today. We hope the good news is that you've enjoyed the readings and you'll walk away thinking of including a little more, well, no, a lot more poetry in your life. Come and read and listen with us next year. Think about having your own Pinsky favorite program at home, with your family, at a holiday event, and the next time you're with a group of friends. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it very much and have a great evening.